Good morning for the 1EC for a brief description of sexual violence and dirty words, including like F-bombs, things like that, if that makes anyone feel uncomfortable, let me know. Alright, the email is sent. Is everyone ready?
Part 1 is the framework. What is meaning? Philosophy ponders this question without ever interrogating the meaning of is. The presumption of the static misunderstands the blurry nature of the world that renders meaning a product of connections. Balance. A body's meaning is dependent on other bodies. A form that is similar to the mind doesn't have meaning until it connects to the machine with the cyclist becomes the vehicle, and the gallery becomes artwork. A body is no different when it connects to the bicycle becomes a cyclist to a cigarette, a smoker, and impacts. A point takes outside the conception of the subject because we prove identity is constantly shaped and reshaped our interaction with the word and B point. To disprove the bindingness of our conception of the subject, you need to prove that subjects don't have emotions, shape a worldly interaction, and only affect can account for the indeterminacy of the ethical moment. Ethics coming about when previous structures of thought are upended by new situations with new actors. Traditional ways of thinking define the terms of morality so as to justify themselves, causes us to be complicit and flawed. Epistemology, this necessitates that obligations and action can only be derived from affect. Brian, traditional ethics begins with determined situations and then searches for a rule to evaluate the action. The question is not how Christ is to be ameliorated by existing principles. The ethical is encountered where the principles no longer hold. Rather, the question is how situations must be composed in response from the perspective of the event as it unfolds, composed of all sorts of heterogeneous actors, non-human objects that can all around modifying the situation. But affective fields are not pure. Whiteness a priori constitutes the conditions by which subjects come to be in and navigate the world. Positioning blackness is always already non-subject and thus creating structuring orientations in which the potentiality of blackness is ontologically foreclosed. A white orientation gives a sense of indefinite spatiality. The right to ostracism does not actually belong. Black is the booster body, mere object that occupies space. Blackness expresses relation to the world in the form of I cannot. Whiteness has become structuring orientation. Performance is presuppose the not self in the form of the other's existence. And the standard rule of values vote for the very best performed. They methodologically engages in affective acts. Deconstructing a price in my body is always already bound up in systems of whiteness, position of specific identity, categories, qualities, and parts. And one takes out util. A point, there's no particular way to measure pain and pleasure that is applicable to all subjects because it's an emotional response. And B point, pain and pleasure both shape subjects. Attempting to avoid one in favor of the other is incoherent. And 2, affect is key to material change because it's a question of how we understand other subjects' feelings in accordance with our own coalition building presumes that we can A point influence another person and B point collectively direct our actions towards a certain goal. And part 2 is the method. We advocate for a methodology of black rage not only as a form of engaging with debate but also by the method in which plea bargaining in the criminal justice system is abolished. I'll grant you links to any topical disas as I defend the implementation of the affirmative in individual and affective sense. The violence enacted on black folks in the CJS is widespread, and plea bargaining is one of the master's favorite tools. The affirmative strips the master away from their tool and embraces the fed up nigger within. Similar to Black Panthers who followed Oakland police officers around to protect their community, we aren't necessarily a reform of the criminal justice system, but rather a demand that refuses to be ignored. Luke and Lawson 16. A well-established like the racial method disparities are astronomical despite being only 30% of the national population. Black surprise, 20% of people arresting significant disparities were found in the plea bargaining compared to similarly situated white defendants. Black and Latino defendants were more likely to receive the plea officer and to be incarcerated. Criminal justice decision-making has been long described by social scientists and legal scholars as racialized and unequal. And part 3 is the offense. A black rage is more than just me yelling. It's a specific mechanism by which to understand material relationships and their relationship to the non-material. Rework whiteness's control over action, carrying MLK away from the peace-loving minister and embracing the fed-up, threatening, emotional affirmation of rage from the slave song to protest. Rage is multiplicative, different for different folks in different situations, but yet one thing fucking straight, that denial of my ability to performatively engage in rage is a willed act of psychological violence against my body. Jordan 1. Rage is a burning room that the sounds of blood, leaving a rifle ready to explode, beats on a drum, a reverberation of sounds. Rage is electric borders, rage borders on boundaries of psychological meaning. Rage is incredibly powerful. It's a very emotion that one is not supposed to reside within. Black indignation is strictly forbidden due to the notion of beats in action. The only way to respond, black rage can shift the trajectory of political movements proven by black nationalism. When the school of peaceful protest focuses on turning the other cheek, rage becomes political when intertwined with the material to create an opening in the social fabric and net benefits. One is possibility. Our method opens up space to use a diversity of tactics to resist oppression. The question is not one of solvency, but of possibility, of focusing not just on the outcome, but with a decision to act. Jordan 2. The of politics and possibilities, political strategy, and the reorganization of society, become comfortable with the possibility of failure, focus on the decision to act with the intention that action may result in something and require the diversity of tactics to within a complex web of relationality. And two is survival strategy. Even if institutions are affected by Methodism, the best survival is the first priority because it controls the internally to engaging in any other methods. Rage is a proven survival strategy via the C.C. McDonald case study 2 Warren's 8 point. Physically, she used rage as a little method of survival, killing her white supremacists, attack with a fear of scissors and B-point. Psychological rage is a method to resist the psychological violence that institutions graft into the bodies of black folks. And three is collectivization. This is an independent reason for affirmative to motivate other bodies to be active in the movement in the wake of the CC attack. The Greek community at large is motivated to support a trans black woman via things like the support CC committee and blog. Jordan 3. A rage operates on multiple levels. Individual rage can be a form of self-love by way of self-protection. It was in the case of CC McDonald. CC2 black rage had the ability to collectivize and struggle effectively and pull in other struggles of other non-beings to highlight atrocities of or a masculine rage for the gaps between different non-beings, allowing for an affective feeling individual being bounded up together, rage brought about situated solidarity. Black rage made research responded so that a new world in the show of the old was possible space of collectivity that defies forces of separation and isolation. And we control the internal into theory. Mind, body, mind. Blackness is not one in this space or other educational spaces. White supremacy operates on the exclusion of blackness. It's dangerous and reproduces its exclusion in the context of the debate space. Absent analysis and way in which black bodies are assumed to be doomed to recreate a oppressive system. Snyder. Black students are destructive civil society. There is something organic to black position only that makes it essential to the destruction of civil society. Blackness has to be contained and managed in order to protect white supremacy. White supremacy needs a reproduction of social relations of power in order to maintain its subjective advantage when black victims identifies anti-governmental notions of work, where white supremacy is able to unleash its freedom from the black body, while self-assertion outside of these parameters is the greatest threat to white supremacy moves of social reproduction comes right there and impacts. When one takes up your theory is one as a form of excluding blackness as intrinsically dangerous, which is an obvious form of anti-black violence, and two independently affirms in our framing. Schneider said that we disrupt social modes of reproduction through self-assertion. Our method of black rage is self-assertion in a way that explicitly makes whiteness uncomfortable. Ready for cross.
If identity is fluid, then how can blackness be fixed in relation to a certain identity?
We don't, sure, so our argument is that whiteness imposes a fixed identity onto blackness. This is that moment when a black person is walking down the street and a white person can point to you and be like, hey, look, there's a nigger, and enact violence on you because there is an affectual relationship.
Wait, but how can that, how can that be coherent if identity is fluid, or how can that sort of stereotype or idea of what it means to be black be imposed?
Because there's a affectual relationship that allows whiteness to enact violence onto black people. Our argument is that identity should be static and that that it should be fluid. I'm sorry, but that whiteness makes it static when they say, "Hey, look, a nigger." In that moment, they are enacting violence onto that black person, and they create a static identity. The 1AC is a method to resist that.
The advocacy. How does an individual abolish plea bargaining? Is it like the performance of the 1AC that abolishes plea bargaining, like in the debate space, or what does the advocacy do?
The advocacy defends black rage as a method to abolish plea bargaining, but we garner our offense from the method writ large. It's not the performance of the 1AC that abolishes plea bargaining. Like, I don't understand the question there.
Okay. Why should we invest in institutions that are designed, like structurally designed against minority debaters, for example, like the 1AC?
The 1AC isn't an investment in an institution.
How is the 1AC? Why not?
What about the 1AC would be an investment in an institution? If you read a link, I will beat that link. I don't understand what. Do you want me to just explain to you what the AF does?
Sure. Is
the AF defends that black people or people who are identified as black should take up the method of black rage as an affective response to oppression.
So does the ballot affirm your method, or is it like the reading or the performance?
If we win that our method is good, the judges vote affirmative.
So through the ballot. Okay, the Jordan 2 card in the AF, that just says, the Jordan 2 card just says that thinking about alternative possibilities for futures is good. Why is black rage the only way to do this?
It's not. Okay, so you're misunderstanding the purpose of the Jordan 2 card. The Jordan 2 card specifically says that we must take up a politics of impossibility that recognizes that all of the tactics we try may not succeed, but it is that moment where we decide to act that is valuable in and of itself. We say that our method starts this. We open up the space for black emotions to be free. Our Jordan 1 evidence indicates that black indignation is seen as something that is forbidden.
Okay.
Black people are seen as...
I have a separate question. Why is the 1AC the only way or the only method in which to do
I mean, you could try to read a counter method, but we just defend that it is a good method. I will not say that it is the only possible method of resisting oppression. That's absolutely bullshit. But I will say that it is a good method. It has good consequences, and that it should, and we'll defend it. What's the order?
2 off from the cases.
Make really off?
Critique decide. Okay, consent. Just tell me whenever you're ready.
On case where you started.
Just stop it. Okay, is everyone ready? The affirmative's attempt to proliferate black knowledge production will be incorporated into the system and sold as new market for capital. Infiltration and framing strategies that resist capitalist commodification despite the best intentioned difference. And identity can and mustn't only be understood from a class-based perspective is key to creating successful movement capable of catalyzing ethical demands at the global level. The Annabelle McLaren 4 post-all theory circumvent the material dimension of difference and separate difference from class formation because simply difference is a product social contradiction in relation to economic existence. They need to historicise different presence, say, tolerance, identity, and understand is different based on questions of racial gender. The politics of differences is all their demand for the anti-monocultural cultural quarantine and inclusion to the soul and diversity represent taste the political spheres model, practically freedoms of amounts of liberty, all vendors display their different culture with minority. Lay claim to street as religion before this is politics of visibility and invisibility. We are presented with an overplaying cornucopia of cultural practices and service markets and things. Neoplurals of different politics on adequately pose a substantial challenge of directions of capitalism able to accommodate vast flows of ideas and cultural practices and modern capitalism, which is a differentiation exists between the ontological worlds of identity policies. These differentiations are essential to violence and extermination, which is necessary on any war. The alternative species of presumption of ethical qualities and prerequisite to dealing in zones of sacrifice, like debate. Bolivar 1. Segregation, migration, poverty, genesis cannot be separated from concrete forms. Identity policy forms a contradiction pattern views as systemic use of various forms of extreme violence and mass insecurity prevent collective movements and emancipation. The aim of transforming structure dominates politics is really anti-political in sense and nihilism and leads to suppressing the very condition of building a polity forms exclusion situation extreme violence with survival of humans is threatened as a banal primitive function of which claims functions to be democratic from cultural difference, racial sequences, the product creation, new races, post-colonial and post-national explain conclude precisely because they're wars, community wide nature catastrophes are killing because they're from political structures, and the role of the balance to vote for the team whose ethical orientation best catalyzes political organization and capital. Prefer a role of the bad because you have an ethical obligation to assume responsibility for actions of the millions subjugated by global capitalism. The debates are about competing methodology. The question at the end of debate is whose orientation best catalyzes political organization and capital. Vote negative to affirm the communist hypothesis prerequisite to political or personal calculation, which discussions and debate continue to operate within a broader framework of capitalist competition, but do 9. Those who abandon the positive resign themselves and mark their conformity to the capitalist companies that idea regarding the destiny of human species companies. State as oxymoron companies means first of all negative since logic classic can be over all the power of those who possess will organize circulation crystallize the United States and not see the colonies supplies the different collective organization eliminate the equality of wealth and division of colonies and denotes the very centers and representation of communism is an idea pure idea of quality communism that exists in a practical state that no one can say this by we knew that it was safe the brave with the palace and the round is key. Every active discussion must be understood as a point of metaphoric connotation for communism voting. Negative means assuming a political force the battle is already won, but do 10. In terms of political theory, history is a symbolic place. Idea of communism and magic projection, political real to the symbolic fiction of history. Role here support the individual corporation, discipline, truth, procedure to go beyond the status constraints and mere survival. Any fiction that is not only the exception, but also possible that everyone can share from now. We are not doomed to allow a program that contradicts this idea of communism, which is what enables truth, species to be spoken in pure language and theory that right for the lines of course which they respect as possible. Once they have come to a place where politics is able to make a decision about whether to incorporate withdrawal, it must become visible as justified from the particularly invisible practice by the real must be exposed in pixel structure. We must have the courage to reinvent and remain faithful to the idea of the communism. The world of the status quo is not necessary and should be abolished. The radical starting point is good enough to create possibilities for new politics, but do tend to. We are contemporary 68 from the point of view of politics, different politics, organized future politics, commonly two things have an experience with decisive issue need to clean the historical hypothesis of what is free from the law of profit and prejudice. This is what I propose to call the communist policy safer. And more to say this existing world is not necessary, then it say we have nothing more to say, but everything comes to then we quite simply not see other possibilities market at other possibilities next off. First, survival strategies are commodified by hegemonic powers and used to maintain domination that turns against Meyer. 8. To struggle to retain it brings into conflict, commoditizing presumption of Western liberal structures to hold on to identities while resisting the hands of subaltern collective strategies. Developed for the sake of survival could be bad when the group in question is dominant. Communities are entirely free of ethical straight survival strategies. There's no room for the ethical straight, though. Acknowledge that one group receives a survival strategy could very well experience by oppression. Second, their investment in static structures prevents becoming, which precludes any one see solvency. North. 15. How can you think that being is not tainted by becoming the feeling that within goals returning to by liberty of lack restricts name for imminent striving or the rights of infinite power, so under process transcends for unlimited field of imminence becoming student testify to satisfaction point is total stopping. Everything must always become nothing is ever thought for enough for imminence. The opposite of transcendence, not imminence, but being that knows no hope, no becoming. And third, methods of change to the university only feed social systems that are enacted by the university, which the words of students are co-opted and lose all meaning because the university moves them itself, twisting and turning the words of students until they become solely in error, paying gobbled up by the academy, feeding its exploitation of those within occupied UC Berkeley 2K9. The university managers social as translating while we not doing acceptable for social company assets, but sells the way to petitions, Sacramento phone calls to competency, then chancellor, compiled feature, congratulate students, strike sharply the meaning, and force the moon, respect the authority, competency, means students speaking the whole global libraries over nines and autonomous movement. He runs into a liberal money, feels the movement managers are social, looks forward to the battles on his race, who utilize proposition with this, he looks forward to exhausting the plunge into the bid where the meetings, riff racks, let's talk about the fight and see, but only of their managed formula. The university feels smarter and meaning the university factory of meaning to civic like the social that everywhere claiming one was visible idea that future ever discourage shape our desire distress and way acceptable to make our very moments here together set a legible and fruitless demands mark the card at demands. And even a liberal academy pre-produces theories and ideologies suggested by colonial violence. The debate's a question of whether we support or question the academy. The idea that discussion in the academy somehow resolves structural oppression is what destroys potential for change and reifies the impact tragedy. Mayor 14, the war on scholarly descendants wait for decades. The wisdom of work is logical race of warfare, national boundary, imperialism, architecture, U.S. Academy. The U.S. Academy is the imperial university and helps to play an important role in legitimizing American exception. The academic role is crucial, especially as liberal students of the liberal process crucial for the empire as interventionist frame and humanitarian was liberal ideology that key to uphold the state of permanent record U.S. imperialism, racial safeguard, that's 3 points, military, cultural, and academic market at academic. This turns the case. 8 point, they invested breed life in institutions that will never benefit minority debaters, which proves the double turn at the heart of the money. See, B point proves no absolvency. The method may be good in the abstract when the concept of the debate space is just incoherent to claim that you can make whites feel uncomfortable in their own institutions. The case. The Yancey evidence cross-sex was very damning. The what I see poses a contradiction. The identity is fluid, yet certain identities are defined in relation to other identities, which either A point means identity is fluid and blackness is not structured in relation to whiteness, which takes out the premise of the what I see from B point proves identity is not cannot be fluid and also takes out the one I see framework. They say affects can create material change, but affects not the only method to create material change. And just because it's an internal linking to creating material change does not mean affects should come before any sort of material change. In the first place, the what I see method first rage is counterproductive, even if it's personally satisfying, results in echo chamber politics, create cycles of new mutual antagonism for the mutual antagonism. Government 7 remedy was counter rhetorical rage. 1 form extremism, whatever we know the counter extremism remedy the response creates the opposite extremist science as merged with single minded free all three drive discourse deeper in the cycle of mutual destruction with integration to kind of extremism and for does not bode well for informed policy. And rage creates cycles of violence. The method is Banger, Harvard, and Zimbalist 10. We don't have the conceivable politics pedagogy for our subject everybody simply retaliation leading to a never-ending cycle of violence. There are worthwhile opportunities for reporting ethics, policies, cultivate individual, collective, political class. Reality inspires us to operate in post-eating ways to live that might be better equipped to deal with implications of addiction to matters of ethics and politics. Magna Carta and politics. Now, the Jordan card, it does not say that black rage is the only method for create change, but rather that radical hope and a new future is necessary, which is what the critique does. Now, the Schneider evidence is not auto-confirmed. There's no reason the 1AC disrupts whiteness or makes white people feel uncomfortable in their own institutions, which is what the argument and the disadvantage.
Okay. Ready for cross?
Yes.
Okay. What's the rule about on the critique?
Do you want the exact text? Or
Yeah.
The role of the ballot is to vote for the team whose ethical orientation best catalyzes political organization against capital.
What does that look like? What does political organization look like?
So, in the critique would say that a form of political organization in this debate round would be the affirmation of the communist hypothesis as a method to resist capitalism.
What is the communist hypothesis and why is it good?
So Badu says that it's both a method and a political ideology that seeks to resist things such as inequality and also
Sure.
refuses.
So what's the first link to the F?
The first link
Yeah.
is the Danville and McLaren evidence.
Yeah.
It says that yes, your theorizing may be true, but the historical contexts in which it is produced or places in which it is spread cannot resist things like commodification.
What type of places that it's spread are bad?
For example, places like academic institutions.
So
things like
basically because I
because
read the app in a debate round, even if the content is good, the fact that I read it in a debate round is bad.
No, I mean, yeah, the argument is that it'll never be co-opted and used.
Sure.
For,
So the
other
knowledge
purposes.
production, the epistemology of the 1AC will get co-opted, is what the link says.
Yes, that's the
Okay.
first.
But the alternative to the critique is we should take up this sort of knowledge production instead, the communist hypothesis knowledge production.
Yes, the
And
alternative.
why in the hell would that not also get co-opted?
The argument is that that is a prerequisite to any sort of.
Okay, so if
knowledge
but you're
formation.
reading it in a debate round, you're reading it in the same academic institution that I'm reading it in. If my knowledge gets co-opted, why is your knowledge not getting co-opted?
The argument is that we need to capital needs to be at the forefront of discussion.
That doesn't answer my question. Even if that is true, again, even if your content is true, the fact that you've read it in a debate round, why does my knowledge get co-opted, but the knowledge that you produce in this round not also get co-opted?
No, the argument is not that all things get co-opted in debate
That
spaces.
is literally
but-
just how you articulated the link.
Okay, can I explain the link?
I would hope so, but it doesn't seem like you can.
Okay, the argument is that in the context of debate spaces, anything that is not anti-capitalistic inevitably gets co-opted. The alternative is a prerequisite to challenging.
Where's
these
the warrant
forms of
for why?
coordination.
Where's the warrant for any? In order for it to not be co-opted, it has to be anti-capitalistic. Like I want a line from any one of your cards that says the only thing that won't get co-opted by the academy is something that says.
The first piece of Badu evidence, the first line: those who abandon this hypothesis resign themselves to the market economy.
Okay, that's where's the warrant for that? That just seems to be like those who don't believe in communism believe in some instance of the market economy. That doesn't seem to say that if we read other forms of knowledge in a debate round, that it will get co-opted, or that your knowledge won't get co-opted.
The argument is that the alternative is a way to fight back against that co-option by forwarding a different sort of way of knowledge production.
Should black people be alive?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Fair prep. Okay, so prep. Order's going to be aff, critique, disad. Aff starting with framing, then on offense. Yeah. Nope. Okay. Is everybody ready?
Extend up the rule of the ballot to vote for the debater who best formally and methodologically engages in affect practice deconstructing oppression. Now, Brian implicates that action and obligations can only be derived from affect relationships, so that must be our starting point. You have literally conceded that affect theory is necessarily binding. Also, our model of debate empowers people to make verbal change change their orientation to oppression, which means that our role of the ballot controls the control into your role of the ballot. Also, our role of the ballot encompasses the role of the ballot because you can resist capitalism effectively, which is what will prove the 1AC does now. We affirm the resolution through the method of Black Rage. A-pointed survival. The first priority within institutions is it must be survival, and only the 1AC is the survival strategy. You have conceded the argument on our survival strategy and that benefit that it controls the internal link to all other methods, which will justify permutation on the critique later. Now, also extend the B point under Schneider. The second impact independently affirms under our framework because they have conceded that we are a form of self-assertion outside of normal parameters, which means that we are able to mitigate the psychological violence that whiteness grafts onto the bodies of black folks to identify them and impose a static identity on them. Now, you can extend our Malins evidence that says identity is fluid and cross-applied this to their response on Yancey. Also, your response on Yancey is incoherent. No, it's the whiteness imposes this static identity on blackness. We don't make the via an affectual relationship that stems from slavery. Now, also, let's go. You off the two cards that you read on case. A point is that this is just solvency for the app. We know we create more violence. Our argument is that when we create more violence, whiteness responds to it, and it is able to necessarily resist institutions, to resist things like capitalism, which also means that we control the internally to solving for the impacts of the critique as well. Now let's go to the offense. You should grant me a very low threshold on extensions of the offense because they've conceded literally all the offense. I'll do the cross applications of the critique flow. Now the critique. First off, the critique is totally non-unique. The alternative will also get co-opted if the critique is true. Cross-X is absolutely damning on this issue. They cannot explain why the link means, how the link differentiates between the knowledge production that the 1AC produces and the knowledge production that the alternative produces, which means that Also, off your link evidence is predicated on a politics of difference, but that is not what the 1AC is. You obviously misunderstand our argument. We see that we try to solve for things like the politics of difference and recognize that identity is fluid, but rather that there is an affectional relationship that does not allow us to do that, which means that any app solvency that we're winning, which is a lot since they conceded all of our offense, means that we solve the impacts of the critique. Now, also off your Badu evidence, you say that we should embrace the communist hypothesis, but first we say that black people don't have access to the community insofar as their voices are always marginalized, which means that the affirmative controls the internal link to being able to do the alternative, which justifies permutation, do the affirmative, then do the alternative. Now, the first net benefit is going to be the survival strategy net benefit, which indicates that which they've conceded controls the internal link to their alternative out of the 1AC, which now the second net benefit is going to be it's the only way to actualize the communist hypothesis. Now, also off your second Badu evidence, you say that this round is key, but this is a link into your own criticism insofar as you were saying that this academic institution is key. It's also a link into your dissad, and it's a performative contradiction which outweighs on intentionality because you knew it was bad, but you still read it, whereas I didn't. Now, also on the critique, permutation to the app. The app is an affective way of deconstructing oppression. It is an anti-capital movement. Now, let's go to the dissad. First, there's no warning in your first evidence because it is about your evidence is predicated on us saying that we should use survival. Never mind. Off your first evidence turn, the dissent is literally saying things like black people shouldn't be alive. The choice is simple. Either we have our survival strategies and we recognize that survival is the first priority, or we shouldn't be alive. Process concedes that survival is a good thing. So the dissent function is right.
Okay. I had 206. word is critique, disaffirmation.
On cases, it's going to be framing, then offense or offensive framing.
It'll just be top down, so I guess framing then
Sorry, what was the order?
critique, decide, case. Does everyone just tell me whenever? The alternative was conditional. I'm not going for it, but I will answer the pro con arguments. First, there's a link to there's very little link differential. We had both linked to this argument since we so I'll consider a link to the critique. That means you also link to the critique, which means it's non-unique. Also, purported contradictor goods and allows to connect methods from multiple different perspectives, which is net better under the 1AC rule. The balances since it allows us to formulate multiple different affective theories and allows us to solve pressure from multiple different angles. Also, the alternative is not a performative contradiction. It's just a reconceptualization of how we should formulate knowledge in the debate space, which is distinct from the affirmative, which first proposes a method for change in the debate space, which is knowledge is inevitably co-opted. The disadvantage, the overreach to the disadvantage is that the disadvantage takes out the majority of the offense. Even if the 1 and C was very light on the F offense, the north evidence, which is practically conceded, takes out the F solvency, the line by line of the disadvantage. They see the Meyer evidence that says survival strategies are key, but yet the disadvantage does not say that black people should not use survival strategies, but rather that survival strategies in the context of debate spaces are inevitably co-opted and twisted against it. It's like the indigenous movements in Australia, which use survival strategies, in which the white settlers just use those same movements and use the same logic to justify violence and erasure of the indigenous people from the continent, which causes more violence. It's also a disadvantage to their method. They also concede the North evidence, which says that in the context of the 1AC framing, yes, I will agree that becoming is important, but the fact that the 1AC ends their process of becoming with a static affirmation of the resolution or through the debate space inevitably means the 1AC cannot resist things like the staticization of black identity or access any of their own affective arguments. The argument is also takes out the majority of the 1AC solvency since they cannot black rage uniquely cannot change the way of blackness is defined in relation to whiteness. Also, the Occupied UC Berkeley evidence says that specifically in the context of debate space and the academy, you're always forced to adhere to the standards of the white people. For example, adhering to things like speech times to debate and adhering to the rules of the topic and rules determined all prove that your method is constrained by larger status in white institutions, so it can never spill over and create any systems of radical change, which means that they do not get any access to any of their spillover arguments, so long as they are working within the same institutions that they criticize. Ask yourself why an institution such as debate, which is structurally designed against minority debates, would allow for them to proliferate methods to take down the debate space. Within this is an argument that 1AR has not explicitly made, so you should not allow any new to or extrapolation. The framing shown the disadvantage was that Chatterjee and Mayer evidence says that the debate's not a question of whether or not individual survival strategies are good or bad, but rather whether or not we should invest those survival strategies and place hope into the academy to effectively utilize those survival strategies. It says that the notion that we can do these things inevitably sees the power to the academy, recreates the same forms of violence, the same forms of psychological violence that the 1AC criticized the case. The framework debate, you see, it controls the internal link to my role about, but that was only on the critique for the Chatterjee Mayer. This is a separate framing issue that takes out your role about crossed by the framing. It's not a question of whether or not material change is good or bad, but whether or not that change should be made through the white man's institution. The case offense first. They say survival strategy is necessary, but the dissent does not just deny your survival strategies, does not deny the legitimacy that black people should live, but rather says that they should not occur through spaces that are structurally designed against it, which was the framing note of this. They say also wait for the second card on the affirmative that hatches and as the day evidence. It said it's not specific to the argument does not take this out. They take this out. They assume that the card is just says that rage increases violence, but that's not the claim the card. That's one of the many claims the card makes. It also says that rage inevitably destroys things like collective action, which means that if you think there is a risk of a spillover claim in the risk of 1AC spillover, it will be denied it'll be denied by this evidence. It says that rage is counterproductive. It turns groups against each other. Things like the LA race riots empirically prove that groups like Asian Americans were pitted against Black Americans, which are all tools of white supremacy to manipulate races. Also, recent events like Charlottesville prove that rage just devolves into people literally committing violence against each other, which turns the premise of the 1AC. Yes, I agree. Yes, Black people should survive, but it's a question of whether. But it's a question of if rage is a bad method for that, then you should reject the 1AC on face. Also, extend the government evidence. It says that even if rage is self-destructive, since it just creates more rage from within, more rage from white institutions. Things like the election of Trump empirically prove my argument. That when white people see threats against them, they inevitably react with things like more rage. They do not react with things like reforms or accepting things like Black musicians, but rather they create institutional crackdown. Things like Trump's crackdown on the Muslim ban. The protests against that did not succeed in creating change. Rather, Trump just recreated the same sort of policies and other spheres, like things like denying immigrants access to the United States. So the debate is very simple. The disadvantage, even if survival strategies generally are good, the specificity of our link evidence takes out the premise of the app and takes out any 1AC solvency.
Okay. The argument is going to be overview, case framing, case offense, critique, then decide. Overview, overview, framing, offense, critique, decide. Is everyone ready? Extent of the role of values for affective resist oppression. The biggest mistake coming out of that 2N is that they have conceded to our role of value, and under our role of value, there has been very explicit framing that since the 1AC that survival strategies are the most important impact on the role of value, which functionally means that all the offense from the dissent does not matter insofar as you are operating under our role of value. Also, the collapse of the dissent was the wrong choice because it functionally means that you defend the SWO since you kick the alternative, which makes the affirmative try or die. All of your offense coming from the dissent is non-unique, but I'll get to that later. Now, also in the case framing, you can extend that whiteness imposes a static identity onto blackness and enacts violence on them via an affectual relationship. This is conceded. So now the question of the debate is, how do we respond to this? So 1AC uses the method of black rage as a way of survival strategies for black people. Now, for black folks now, they say that we shouldn't make change through the white man's institution, but if you can explain in the RFD why the 1AC is a change in a white institution, then you should be voting for. They have not been able to articulate a link to this throughout the entirety of the debate. The 1AC proper literally says that we are in an individual and affective sense, i.e. we call on black people to individually take up the method of rage. Nothing about that works with the institution of whiteness, and they have not been able to explain this. The 1 and 2 and is very bad on this issue now. Also, they see that we should destroy collective action, and they try to go for these really bad case turns, but they're conceding that sure, even if we create violence, this violence is necessarily needed because whiteness doesn't respond to violence. They say that the election of Trump empirically proves that rage is a bad idea, but they're just wrong on the issue. Hillary Clinton's campaign was all about embracing love, not hate and shit, and that's what put Trump in the White House, which is means that this offense flows affirmative is a reason for you to vote for us. Now let's go to the critique. I don't care if you think you can kick the alt, we're not going to let you do it. Kicking the alt is fundamentally kicking the slave. It's an independent reason to drop you because it lets you sever out of your advocacy. My advocacy is tattooed on my skin, and I don't just get to walk away from that. You shouldn't be able to either. Just for the purpose of picking up a couple of ballots, you should be forced to defend your advocacy in the interaction of the critique with the affirmative. Now let's go to the dissad. I told you this was the wrong choice. None of the offense on the dissad actually matters. This is just describes the status quo, a condition of blackness in America. All of these conditions that you say are a result of the already happened in the status quo, which means there's no reason as to why the impacts of the critique outweigh the affirmative. Just this means that the affirmative is necessarily try or die. You try to make these arguments about why you take out our solvency while simultaneously conceding throughout the entirety of the debate the specific case studies we give you, i.e. the CC McDonald example. Her choice was literally life or death, and in that moment she raged and chose life, and you have not been able to articulate why this is a bad thing. Means that you should prefer the F word, like I said.